Oprah Winfrey for the show today. All right. So if you have a question in the back table, where's my back table here?
Eva's over there.
There's the back table with Eva over there. Fill out a questionnaire. You're the ones that keep it going. Or let it stop early. It's up to you. So if you have a question, we'll make that your topic. I'm going to give you a hint. Edison Park is one of our topics already. You don't have to fill that out. As you'll notice, we have Edison Park proposal over here. We have a couple presentations to do before we get started. So with all due respect, I'd like to introduce your 4th District Councilman for our first of 2 presentations, and then we're going to get into Edison Park, and then we'll get into the question part of Mayor's Night Out. We're going to try to wrap it up by 8:30. That's our goal. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to your 4th District Councilman, Bill Emerson.
Thank you. It's great to see a room full of people. We have a lot of people here. I'll try to be brief. I'm not going to go over all the projects of 2018, although I have them. So after the meeting, if you want to come up, you know, I've got the map, I've got what I've requested. I call it my dream sheet, and that's an old Army term. And I ask for these things, and in engineering, and Heather, our controller, if the money's there, we can do it. If it's not, then we come up a little short. But anyway, I'm not going to go through all those projects. But what I am going to do is recently we got the idea, I didn't do it by myself, to have an award for someone in the 4th District, and it's called the Good Citizen Award. And so there's 2 simple requirements. You have to live in the 4th District, and you have to do the majority of your work on a volunteer basis. Now, whether it's a simple majority of 51% or a 2/3 majority, we haven't got into that argument yet. But so without further ado, I want to announce who that winner is tonight. And the winner of the Good Citizen Award in the 4th District, he meets both of these qualifications, and I'll explain a little more, is Patrick O'Donnell. And Pat, I just have to thank, your wife Sylvia gave me some of the accomplishments, not all of them, but some of them. Patrick O'Donnell was an infantryman with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam, 1967-68. He is past commander of American Legion Hammond Victory Post 168. He's also been the co-creator of the Citizen Soldier Award, which is given to civilians who help veterans. Public Relations Director for the American Legion 1st District of Lake County. Co-founder of the Northwest Indiana Veterans Action Council and executive board member. Instrumental in helping develop the Veterans Court in Lake County. Past commander of the American Legion District of 1st District of Lake County, Public Relations Chairman for the American Legion 27-2018, founder and anchor of host of Veterans Views radio show airing on WJOB for the past 10 years. Currently he's working with others to create permanent housing for homeless veterans, and he received the Purdue Recognition Award, Boots to Books. He's on the Legislative Committee for the American Legion, member of the American Legion Committee for Awards, and a member of the Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and Vietnam Veterans of America. That's a brief synopsis of Pat. And Pat, I want you to come up here and get a plaque real quick. I'll just read it real quick. In recognition for giving the extra mile in service to the people of 4th District, the city of Hammond, Indiana, on this day in January, that I can't read the small print, 2018. Yeah, it's a good thing I lost a couple of pounds.
All right, one more time for Patrick O'Donnell, everybody. Thank you. Congratulations. All right, another short presentation. Casey Farrell, are you in here? I know you are. You're hiding from me. Where is he? Casey, could you please step forward? I want to embarrass you in front of this huge crowd. So, hey everybody, this is Casey Farrell, James Casey Farrell. He's been in the Hammond Water Department for over 30 years, and we're going to recognize him today, if you don't mind. Can you give him a big round of applause, and I'll explain? Mr. Farrell. Key to the city is the highest honor a mayor can bestow upon any individual or an organization. I bet you since I've been mayor, I've only given about a dozen of these, all right? As such, I'm honored to present you with a key to the city and to express the appreciation to all Hammond residents, on behalf of all Hammond residents, for your contributions to making Hammond a better place to live and to raise a family. I want to explain a little about how Casey landed up here. Casey's been with the Hammond Water Works Department for 31 years. And 10 years as the general foreman in the distribution section. The distribution section is outside. When there's a water line break, you're in a pit, and he's been the general foreman of that crew for over 10 years. He's been with it over 31 years, and it gets cold sometimes. And Casey's not the young man he used to be. I'm going off script here. I mean, it's obvious he's not the young man he once was, right? But it doesn't stop Casey. In October 2017, October, it's cold out. Casey and his crew were called out to a major break of a 36-inch water line on Chicago Avenue under such high pressure that water was shooting 30 feet into the air. It's quite frankly a dire situation. If this keeps happening and we can't stop it, we could have boil odors, we could have real problems with our filtration system. Due to inoperable isolation valve, Casey plunged himself into the pit of the leaking main while getting water sprayed on him at over 50 psi, and it was engulfing him. Casey's quick, by the way, Casey's a boss. To see your boss jump into a pit and to do what Casey did was quite inspirational for the people that watched it. Casey's quick action and ingenuity plugged the main and saved the surrounding residential property owners from the flooding and the damages that generally take place during this type of emergency. Casey's dedication and resourcefulness in dealing with unforeseen damages to the Hammond Water Works distribution system is just one example of his talented skill set. He leads by example, and he deserves this special recognition for all of his exemplary contributions to the city of Hammond and to its citizens. I appreciate your willingness to go above and beyond the duty, Casey Farrell, for you, the city of Hammond, and the Hammond Water Department. Your actions are truly commendable. And before we applaud, how did Casey stop that leak?
I know.
How?
I won't say it. I'll let somebody.
How was it, Jack?
Use a baseball bat.
Can you give Casey Farrell a round of applause for stopping a big leak with a baseball bat? Casey, thank you on behalf of the citizens of Hammond. This key to the city, if you don't mind me reading it, I can't hardly read it. I'll try anyway. This key to the city is hereby presented to James Casey Farrell in grateful appreciation of your hard work, your skill, and your dedication. Thank you for helping to make Hammond a safer place to live and to work. Presented this 24th day of January 2018 by Hammond's Mayor Thomas M. McDermott Jr. Congratulations, Casey Farrell.
I wasn't in the hole by myself that day. One of my very good employees, Gary Bellamy, was there. Thank you.
Casey, thank you for what you do, for being an inspiration to all your employees and doing a great job for the Hammond Water Department. This key doesn't work, for the record. Okay? All right, there we go. Thank you for allowing us to do those presentations. All right, let's go ahead and I want to thank the elected officials. Okay, let me tell you something. I've been doing a lot of mayor's nights. We used to do 11 a year. We do 6 a year now. Pretty much every other month, obviously. This elected official, we don't really get the sheriff to show up to Mayor's Night Out very often. So I wanted to take a moment to respect and recognize Lake County Sheriff Oscar Martinez. Thank you very much for coming out, Sheriff. While I'm recognizing county officials, I also want to, a Hammond resident was recently, he used to be the councilman of this district, and since then he served as our fire chief in Hammond. Then he went off to the county council, and he's been serving out there with distinction. And just recently he was elected president of the Lake County Council, Councilman Dave Ham. Thank you very much, Councilman. I've done over 100, probably closer to 150 Mayor's Night Out, and this gentleman is in the audience every single time. I want to thank Hammond City Clerk Robert Golick. Thank you very much, Clerk Golick. Hammond City Council President Janet Vanez. Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Hammond's 5th District Councilman Dave Warple. Thank you very much, Dave. Hammond's 4th District Councilman Bill Emerson. Thank you very much, Councilman. 6th District Councilman Scott Rakos. Hammond Councilman at Large Dan Spitali. Thank you very much, Dan. Hammond School Board Trustee Anna Mamala. Thank you very much. And as they walk in, I'll introduce them as they come along, but I just wanted to thank the elected officials. It's nice to have these interactions with the public and to have the elected officials here interacting along with you. So I just want to say thank you very much. Coincidentally, you know, these Mayor's Night Outs are set up way ahead of time. I'm looking for my sheet with the names. There it is. These are set up way ahead of time. And sometimes coincidentally, when you come to a neighborhood, there just happens to be big city work going on. I remember one time we had a very bad basement backup. It was a horrible storm we had early in my administration, and it was one part of the city in particular that was affected by hundreds of basement backups. And coincidentally, Mayor's Night Out happened to fall that same week. And we, you know, went out in public and we took it. People were frustrated and angry, and we went out and did it. But like, Mayor's Night Out is set a year ahead of time. And here we are in the 4th District, because it's the 4th District's turn, and while we're here, we also happen to be discussing a bond issue that's going to replace the Hammond pools with replacement parts, with replacement equipment, and reprogramming the parks. And Edison Park was one of those parks that we were talking about reprogramming. And we're here with HWC Engineering. I'd like to introduce two gentlemen that are going to go through and talk about the proposal for Edison Park. We've been working real close with the councilman, and we want you to have some input, obviously, as well. And so we have a short presentation we want you to look at in regards to Edison Park. So I'd like to introduce and thank the two gentlemen that are going to be conducting this, is Corey Whitesall. Thank you very much, Corey. Corey's from HWC Engineers. Also, Matt Reardon from NCR Partners. Thank you very much, Matt. And a gentleman that I-65 was shut down today because of the ice, and this gentleman drove up here to help with this presentation as well. I don't know if he wants to go out in front of the public, but I do want to embarrass him. Thank you to Keith Cheney, also from HWC Engineers. He said, what percentage likelihood is Mayor's Night Out going to happen today? And I texted him back, 100%. So here we are, and thank you for showing up, Keith. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic off to well, first off, I want to remind everybody this is being aired live on Go Hammond TV, on Facebook Live as well. It's archived also if you want to watch it again tomorrow. If you have like that type of wish, it's more than available. So while we're on Go Hammond TV, I'd like to introduce Matt and Corey and have them give you the presentation on the new Edison Park. Thank you, guys.
Everybody hear me all right? I'll talk louder. So we got a phone call from City Hall, and they said we have some ideas. We have some ideas. We have some funding maybe, and we'd like to find a group of professionals that can do things on time, on budget, and follow what the community wants to do. So that's why I'm here, and Corey's here. So I'm just going to touch on schedule, and I think that's important to everybody that uses the park and that wants to use the park. So tonight is the 24th. We're here. It's Mayor's Night Out. We've been working closely with the councilman to discuss what could go in the park. What should it look like? What are the feelings of the neighborhood? What's go, no go? What are the white elephants? What are the things that have to stay? And what are the things that should go? And set with that in mind, we sat down and started working through some process. And just to let you know where we stand today, February 7th will be the next park board meeting, and we will have at that time 90% plans completed from the engineering design perspective. And why is that important? I think we want to get the park started. I think we want to get the park built, and we want to get the park finished. And there were three things that the mayor talked about. We wanted to make sure, the mayor and the councilman talked about, we want to make sure that the park is usable. We want to make sure the park is sustainable. And we want to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood feels welcome in their own park. And they also mentioned one thing. By the way, it would be nice if this park could get done at a timely basis. So that's why we sat down and started working very hard and diligently with that. And we have a short presentation you're going to see. There's boards up here. We'll be here after the Mayor's Night Out to answer any questions that you might have, and certainly your input about the park. And obviously, you can contact the councilman at any time and let him know how you're feeling. So I'm going to turn it over to Corey. He's going to run through this, and you'll see what's going on. It's really cool.
Hey, Craig, can I say something real quick? I want to point out to the residents of the 4th District, there's 4 different projects. Previously, were 4 pools in the city of Hammond, outdoor public pools. We're proposing 4 different projects with the bond that we recently passed through the Hammond City Council, signed by the mayor. This bond is going to pay for those 4 projects. 4 different engineering firms were hired for 4 separate projects. HWC and MCR Partners, they're first done. Not just because Mayor's Night, they work the quickest, which I think is very impressive. So, residents of the 4th District, we haven't had this presentation in the 1st, in the 6th, or in the 3rd yet, because they're not ready. In the 4th District, they've been ready. So I do want to tip my cap to HWC engineers and to MCR Partners. Give them a big round of applause, everybody.
As we looked at designs for this park, what we really wanted to focus on first was how do we make this a great neighborhood park? And so we focused on what are the basic things that you need to have a good neighborhood park. A place to walk, good shelter, slides, swings. But we want to take it and say, how can we make it special? So you'll see a few things in this park. First of all, what you'll see in this corner, which is right at Spruce and Madison, is you're going to see the playground and shelter area, okay? The playground is inspired by activity for kids, a little bit of adventure. So you'll see things to climb on, things to play with. It's not just a platform playground with just a slide. There's so much more to it. We've got a little bit of an adventure course that goes with it, an agility course, so kids can run and climb on ropes and time themselves and play games like that. One of the things we're really excited about, you'll see in this rendering to the side, is we've added swings out here. This is one of my favorite memories of growing up at home, was sitting on the porch swing with Grandpa. So these swings out here allow you to see the activity and what's going on in the park. The existing parking area will stay relatively small. It's just a little bit bigger than it is right now because we want to make sure this is a neighborhood park. While we want it to be attractive to all Hammond residents, at the same time, it needs to remain the right scale so that you're not drawing in so many people that it starts to become a distraction to the community. In addition to the playground and shelter area, before we leave the shelter, one of the things that we're struggling with is we've got a nice building that is part of the pool house. And when we walked into it saying, is there any way that we can reuse this building for a shelter? And we couldn't, it's just not feasible to do that reasonably. But it's got these great wood beams in that building and all this great wood decking. We're going to reuse that to recreate a new shelter space here. So we're trying to do our best to salvage the materials that are out there. Another key to this park are 2 sports courts, and you can see this illustrated up here. This will have an artificial turf for the surfacing. That allows you to use it year-round, which is really important. We see a lot of soccer use at this field in this area, so we want to make it something that could be built in with soccer goals built in so kids can play there year-round. One of the other features that you'll see in here is a skate spot. There are places in the community that have a skate park, but even in a neighborhood setting, there needs to be a place for those kids that skate to have a place where they can do that. So it's not tearing up improvements other places, but it gives someone a place to do that. That's going to be at this far corner of the park, still where it's very visible. One of the key things for a neighborhood park is also having lots of flexible space. So the back field will remain open and unobstructed for that pickup football game, throw frisbee, toss a football, whatever it is, because you still need flexibility. And the last thing, number one use that we see requested in parks is always a place to walk. Those sidewalks around the park are in good shape, but they are very, very narrow, and so you can't walk 2 abreast easily. And so what we've done is widen those sidewalks out to 8 feet around the park. And as those widen out to 8 feet, we're also adding in shade trees so that this is not just an investment that pays off now, but in 20 years, this gets even more exciting as those trees start to mature. So that's a basic overview. We've got a small video here on the bubbles that are playing. Let me get this restarted. And this will give you just a little quick video of what those features look like in 3 dimensions as we work through this. So you're seeing it from the sky first, and we're zooming in, and this is hitting that corner by the shelter area. As we zoom in from here, you can start to see the shelter, you can start to see the playground equipment, the agility course coming through, the shelter with those reused beams from the existing bathhouse. Picnic area underneath this with tables and opportunities. The porch swings become a great place just to watch the activity at the park unfold as the kids play. As we move to the back of the park, we're seeing the enclosures for those sports courts. We're looking at dasher boards or other enclosures around there, so kids are literally playing soccer off the walls as they go through that area. Seating area for this large back open field becomes part of it. We're looking back towards those facilities. So now this is going to take us out to the street, and we are, as we get up to the street, you start to see this view of what will that look like in a few years as those trees mature, and you have a shaded walkway, an alley of trees. And in this back area, the skate spot becomes a small place with a few features where kids can play and engage. This is not just for skaters. This is a great place for a small bicycle, scooter, things that are, this is relatively low. This is not super big. So very exciting to see that coming together. And then just about wrapped up, just seeing that open field that becomes part of it and looking at it from the backside. Mayor?
Corey, that's outstanding. First question I have, we're going to open it up to questions from the audience to talk about this proposal for Edison Park. Can we get a copy of that video to put on Go Hammond so that
Absolutely.
so people could view it online? That's
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. So anyway, questions about this proposal? Yes, ma'am. I'm going to repeat that so that Go Hammond TV catches it. Are there electrical outlets in the shelter?
There will be a couple electrical outlets just for minor events. You know, if you're having a cookout or something, you can plug in a crock pot or something.
Okay.
Not a lot of power,
sir.
though.
Around the kids' play area, do you have seats also with ground posts to watch the kids play?
Absolutely. There will be multiple benches through that area, as well as the porch swings are in a good position where you can watch that whole area.
Question? Yes, ma'am.
Will you have the porch swings around the walkway so if people are walking or that, or if kids are riding their bikes, you can sit watching?
Yeah, the porch swings are going to be in an area where you can look at either the shelter or you can look out over the playground area. And then you'll be able to see, you're kind of in the hub of the park where the porch swings are, so you're able to see a lot of different activities.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I may have missed it. What's the, when is this project going to be completed?
As it states right now, the notice to proceed as we go through the park process will be April 16. Substantial completion should be October of 2018. So it should be pretty well wrapped up, obviously weather depending, but once we start the process, the park will be fenced off and the contractors will be working as fast as they can. So, final completion we talked about was November of 2018.
This is the fastest moving project out of the four right now, for sure. The other ones are bogged down for one reason or another, depending on what's going on, but this one's, and I do want to recognize and thank Bill Emerson, your councilman, for really working with the team and doing a good job on this, because he really, all the projects are moving along, but this one is scooting along a lot quicker than the others, and it's convenient because we're here, which is nice. So, questions? I'd like to give you some stats about the former the Edison Pool. It was built in 1954. If we wanted to maintain the status quo, we needed to spend $1.2 million on it immediately. And if we did get it back to the status quo, which is no new features, no new, zero depth, none of the splash features or anything like that you see at the Munster Pool, we had an attendance in 2014 of 1,091 visits. That could be the same person going back multiple times, or the same family going back. 1,091 visits. That fell off about 10% the following year, and we only had 997 visits. The cost in 2015 per visit. I hear this a lot. Mayor, why don't you just charge us more and the pools will be profitable? We calculated we would have to charge each person per visit to break even $55.92 in 2015 per person, per visit to break even. This pool built in 1954 is constantly losing water, and as it loses water, that's warm water that we heated up and water with chemicals that we lose. So we come back the next day, we have to heat the water up again, we have to put more chemicals in, so to fix it and to get us to the status quo in Edison, we'd have to do 1.2, and we're at status quo. By the way, you're still competing with Munster's magnificent $4 million pool that they built, and they have huge Hammond residents there, they have residents from all over North Township there. The southern part of our city, we compete with that pool, whether you like it or not. Hessville Pool, Edison Pool, we're competing with Munster. So if we're going to compete down here, we have to spend like Munster did. So in this case, we decided to go different direction. Obviously, we're still taking input before we move forward. So, questions? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Anna.
I just want to thank Councilman Emerson, and this looks great, classic.
It's real close to your house, a couple blocks, right? Which is nice, though. I mean, it's a nice walking area.
Beautiful.
We took a park in Hessville, Dowling Park, and we added a track to it. We did a lot for Purdue, but one thing I insisted on was, I just want to put a track around it. It's going to be nice, we'll put a track around it. I know the councilman's following up and talking about lighting up the trail. We put that track over there, and you see people out there every single day walking around. You put a track at MLK Park, Councilman Higgs helped the Hammond Park Department do that. You see people constantly walking around MLK Park. You throw a simple track around like we're talking about here, people will use it. People will use the playground. You're going to see a heck of a lot more than 991 visits to that park if we do these proposals. Yes, ma'am.
Are there going to be lights or some kind of lighting for evenings?
There's already lighting around the perimeter of the park today. We're putting some basic lighting on the interior park for security purposes. It's not really intended to light it up for use at night. We've got to be respectful of the neighbors that are around there. So minimal security lighting, probably be less lighting than there was for the pool right now, just to keep it modest for the neighborhood.
But just so like in the summertime evenings, if it's nice to go sit outside, we don't want big bright lights, but there's some kind of lighting for safety.
Yes.
And I also want to point out that per Hammond City ordinance, all of our parks at dusk do shut down. You know, the outer perimeter would be probably an exception. I see people walking around all the time after dark, but technically, when it's dark, you're not supposed to be in a park, kids or families at that point, so. Yes, sir, in the back. I'm sorry.
How do you measure the attendance or usage of the parks?
Well, it's hard when they're free. When they were paying to get in, it's a lot easier to measure.
You know, you need the park.
Yes, sir, I agree. But how do you measure the attendance at a park that's free to walk in and out of? It's a lot harder. It's more of an estimate. But when we talk about the visits to the pool, it's easy because people pay to get in.
I look at the pool as also being a park,
Okay, I agree with you. Pool's a park.
and it should be free to those who want to.
I agree, and there's people that feel you that way, for sure, sir, I agree. But at the same time, when we have first off, a city of Hammond size, to have 4 outdoor pools I think it's ridiculous. And I'm in charge of the fiscal matters of the city, the council's in charge of the fiscal matters, but when you're losing $200,000 a year on something that's not being used as much as when it was built, 1954, things have changed a lot. I know you can attest to that way better than I can, sir, but.
What does that cost for a park? You know, is that $200,000 to
For these parks?
maintain a park?
Not nearly that much, not nearly. No, to mow the grass at a regular park, it's not very expensive at all, sir. We have staff that does that. Thank you. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the 2 ball fields there, for playing. Is there any plans to have them convertible in the winter months to?
Great question.
Open skating or hockey?
Or like some type of ice skating? Good question. That's why we're here, by the way. We're not like moving forward, these are the lock solid plans. Somebody comes up with an amazing idea, we're like, wow, we're so glad that we brought this up here, so.
We've talked about that. It's been one of the questions we ask is, should they be? Trying to convert it for ice skating becomes another expense, and we've just not seen that come real high on the priority list of what we've heard so far in this process.
But like if we wanted to convert it down, like Councilman Kowinski in Hammond's first district took something similar to this, bought a liner that was made for ice rinks, and with the cooperation of the Hammond Department of Public Works and Hammond Park Department, he literally has an ice rink. He babysits it though. So maybe we could hire your councilman to do the same kind of thing here in the 4th District. That would be great. I mean, Councilman Emerson has plenty of time on his hands, so he could do these types of things, so.
I need the dog park to do what I have to do there.
Thank you for the recommendation. That's a really good recommendation. And I've seen Councilman Mark do it with something very similar. So maybe it's just is it as simple as buying one of those heavy-duty liners? I'm not That's something, that's very interesting. I mean, I think maybe we should take a look at that. I think that's a real good idea. Maybe at least one of them could be converted into it, you know? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Will there be any kind of markers? I know in the evening and in the morning, you walk around the park a lot. And when I walk around there, I don't even know how many miles I
That's
go
great.
around.
That's great.
So is there a marker around there?
We can certainly look at that. I think,
How long do you think, a quarter mile all the way around?
I think it's about a third of a mile all the way around.
Third of a mile?
About a third of a mile all the way around, but we'll make sure we publish what that distance is, so everybody will know that right up front.
Good idea. See. Sure.
Y'all closing the pool in the third district, right?
The third district, the fourth district, and the the sixth district.
Okay.
So we're closing 3 pools in 3 districts.
These kids supposed to learn how to swim.
We're talking about in the third? Hammond Civic Center's right there, has a pool year-round.
You know why?
But that means a lot of kids gonna have to crawl. Calumet Avenue, right?
I see kids cross Calumet Avenue on a daily basis.
High school will have it.
Right. Yeah, the new high school have a pool too, thank you.
A young lady pointed out at the council meeting the other night that, swimming is the only sport that can possibly save your life. And that makes a lot of sense. So now, considering the urban 75% water, don't you think it's highly necessary that kids and even some adults who don't know how to swim? That is a necessity.
Hammond YMCA offers swim classes. Hammond Civic Center has a pool year-round. The new high school, the high schools have pools. I know Gavitt's got a pool, the new high school has a pool. I mean, Clark has a pool. So, I get it. I understand not everybody's thrilled with this, okay? I get it.
So you said it's not necessary to have one.
No, I'm making a fiscal move for our city. Because we have to tighten our belt because we voted for tax caps in Indiana. The tax caps have taken about $20 million of our revenue since I've been mayor. And in 2 years, we have to tighten our belts another $5 million because the tax caps are going full into effect. So it's our job, my job, to find savings. And if we're losing 200,000 and it's not being frequented as much as it used to be, it's not even close to what it used to be. I have to make tough decisions, Kendall. Okay? That's my job. I mean, if you want a guy to come up here and say, I'm going to keep running it the way it's been running since 1954, you got the wrong guy. You hired me to do a job, I'm doing it. I'm trying to do the best I can. This is a tough decision. And I know not everybody's thrilled with it, but it's my job to run the city, and I'm trying to do it. And I'm trying to do it so that more people go to this park after we build it than they were using that park when the pool was there. Because we only got 997 visits in 2015. 997 visits. That could have been the same person 30 times. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Councilman Higgs, nice to see you. Hammond, 3rd District.
I guess my concern is basically, whether or not the.
Could we do me a favor, though? You're here to talk about MLK Pool. We're not talking about MLK Pool. We're talking about Edison.
I'm not talking about MLK, I'm talking about across the city.
Okay.
Not just MLK. I didn't say.
Well, I mean, right now, we're in the 4th District, talking about a park project in the 4th District.
That's my concern. Will the project that exists at Edison be similar to the one put in MLK Park? And Memorial Park is also in my district.
Memorial Park's not getting money from the bond. And you know that because you were part of I think you may have voted in favor of it, actually.
I did.
Okay. So, Memorial Park wasn't part of the original ordinance that was passed by Hammond City Council, and it's still not, okay? This is about replacing the holes in the ground that are left because we're closing the pool. Edison Park has a hole in the ground. We want to replace it with what we're presenting. Hessville Park, which is about a half a mile from my house, has a hole in the ground. We have a plan for that we're working on. MLK has a hole, well, above the ground in MLK, and we're working on a plan to address that issue. And by the way, MLK Park's physically probably twice, if not 3 times bigger than Edison Park, and it's a park named after Martin Luther King. So, obviously, it's a historical park. I agree with you, and it's going to be magnificent. And I hope we can work together on that, Councilman Higgs, because I know you're not happy. I hope you're not happy. I know you're not happy, being in all fairness, you're not happy about the proposal to shut down the pool. I get it, okay? But what I want you to hear from me is, it's important for us that what replaces the former MLK pool is spectacular. It makes the residents proud, and it gets a lot of attendance, and that park is even more vibrant than it was, right?
And what's important to me is that we work together to make sure that it's beautified and it benefits all the
I agree with you, Councilman, so I'm looking forward to working with you on it. All right.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Oh, hi, Africa.
Hi, Mayor. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that the Department of Community Development does offer vouchers for swimming and various sports programs. The vouchers are paid for through HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It is a first-come, first-served basis. Last year, over 300 vouchers were given out to children that met the income requirements. So if someone is interested, they are more than welcome to call the Department of Planning and Development. Cynthia Rangel is the coordinator of the program, and or you can go online and see the information that is needed. But we have several recipients of the program that have used it for swimming and other sports throughout the city of Hammond. Eligible families they're eligible for up to 5 sports per family or per student.
Thank you, Africa, I appreciate it. Questions? Yes, sir.
The only other question I had there, I haven't seen the diagram of what is proposed, but.
Well, you walked in just a few minutes ago. I indicated to the crowd at Edison how lucky they were because this project in particular is cruising right through, okay? For a number of reasons, projects are slowed down, certain projects. Your project has been tough because of community opposition, councilman opposition, and that slows things down because we want to make sure we do it the right way. So maybe if we were working closer together, that pool project would be further along.
Well, I'm willing to work with you.
Okay, so thank you, I appreciate it. Hey, I want to take a second to thank North Township trustee Frank Mervan. Thank you very much, trustee Mervan. All right, let's go ahead, questions. I wanted to also, Lake County Commissioner Mike Ripe and his wife Amanda just had a little girl, baby. Off the top of my head, I don't remember her name. Do you, anybody? Vivian, thank you. And I just want to take a moment to give Mike and Amanda, who I'm sure they're in a hospital room watching us on Go Hammond TV right now. So I wanted to say congratulations to Mike and Amanda Ripe, Commissioner Ripe. Let's give them a big round of applause. All right, let's go ahead. We about done with questions on this proposal. I appreciate the residents of 4th District, the feedback. I want you to know that this is not a final plan. We are in listening mode, and I'm encouraged by the support we've gotten back. So thank you very much. Wanted to give it up for HWC Engineering and also MTR Partners. Great job, you guys. All right, now we're in the Mayor's Night Out part. 40 minutes, detours. We did the key to the city. We did a presentation to a veteran. We did the park proposal. Now we're going to get into the question part. Donna, could we go ahead and introduce the department heads so that we can get Mayor's Night Out started? All right, your questions. Like when we do a question, let's say you have a question about reciprocity. You hate Illinois plates. If we're talking about reciprocity from the written question and you have a verbal question, you're like, hey, Mayor, I have a question about Illinois license plated cars also. Please just raise your hand. But if you're raising your hand, you're like, I want to talk about the water department. It's like we ask you to do a question on that in the back, if you don't mind. So let's go ahead and start. Hey, Johnny. By the way, the head of the Hammond Department of Public Works was down in Indianapolis for a conference today, and we had an ice storm. Second man in charge was in charge of our streets today, and by all indications, he did a great job. Johnny Perez, great job today. I only got like 100 people yelling at me today, and it's usually way more than that, so I wanted to say thank you very much. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Johnny Perez, Public Works. Rick Zaney, Port Authority.
Kevin Margraf, Fire Department.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel and College Bound.
Ed Caruso, Hammond Water. Mark Heinz, Parks and Recreation.
Marty Wilgus, Hammond Sanitary District.
Chris Sakalaris, Legal Aid.
Jeff Massey, Sanitary District.
Matt Muta, Sanitary District.
Jack Smith, Sewer Maintenance. Kelly Kearney, Inspections. Jaime Prieto, Code Enforcement. Clyde Stout, Public Works.
Heather Gray, Controller's Office.
Africa Tarver, Planning and Development.
Phil Talon, Chief of Staff.
John Doty, Hammond Police Department. Bill Emerson, 4th District Councilman.
Ron Novak, Environmental.
Brian Poland, City Planning.
Dean Button, Engineering.
Ann Anderson, Economic Development.
Kurt Cook, Building. Dennis Radowski, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Chris Cantar, Law Department.
Carmen Paniagua, Housing Authority.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Donna Muta, Special Events.
All right, let's go ahead and get started, Donna.
Okay, Mayor, right off the top, do you know what the cause of the big blast that shook the neighborhood in New Year's Eve around the Locust and Jackson area was?
Good question. Skip? No, I'm just kidding. That would be so cool if I could do something like that, but, did you? I did not hear it, but I tell you what though, I've become used to loud booms with the legalization of fireworks a couple decades, well, 15 years ago or so. City Hammond, maybe I'm not as sensitive as I used to be. Did you heard it also, Councilman?
It was louder than your normal 180.
Yeah? Chief? All right, Chief of Police wants to jump in. You got anything on this one? Chief?
Okay, we were all over that. We got some complaints about it, and somebody had a video actually of somebody setting off what we thought may have been a quarter or half stick of dynamite. We had our undercover officers go in and watch the neighborhood for a while. We looked at the video. We were able to determine what house they came from. We followed their tracks in the snow. That helped. You know, we take the easy way sometimes also.
So the criminals put it on Facebook and they left tracks in the snow.
Yeah, they like to show what they do, and they left some evidence behind. Turned out to be illegal fireworks they had acquired the year before in Illinois, hung on to it, and they decided it would be fun to go out and set it. There was no damage other than a little bit of, you know, the grass they tore up. But their munitions were confiscated, and they were assured if they came out and did it again, they would be prosecuted.
Okay, there you go. Usually, one of us knows what's going on. I mean, as far as, there's a lot of things that happen every day in the city of Hammond, so thank goodness I have great teammates to back me up. So thank you, Chief. Chief, you know, before we get into the next question, there was a press conference yesterday with the U.S. Attorney's Office regarding an unsolved murder that was, it's a tragic murder that happened in Hammond 2 summers ago. Lauren Cavillo, and it happened really close to the police department. I know it shook all of us up. It shook up, obviously, the neighborhood and the family. There was an announcement yesterday, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about it. I know federal investigations are sensitive, but I was wondering what you could tell the audience about that.
U.S. Attorney Tom Kirsch announced that we've known about the investigation for a while. We've been working very closely with ATF GRIT. That's the ATF task force. We have Hammond officers assigned to that. One of the lead officers in the case was a Hammond officer. We developed a RICO case and some other felony counts against the Latin count gangs, and that was successfully led to indictments. There was a roundup, and the purpose of that case was in hopes of you know, getting information related to the Beale Street murder a little over 2 years ago that really rocked that small Jacob Square community over there. It's, I got to tell you, that was an awful moment in time. There was some battle going on between a couple gangs over there, and it was a Chicago-style gangland shooting into a crowd, and an indiscriminate young female was killed during that exchange of gunfire. There was malice on one side, while, you know, a large group of people were just standing idly by, not doing anything wrong. The girl that was killed was ushering children inside once the large amount of gunfire started, and she took a bullet just by chance, and she succumbed to it almost immediately. There was a lot of outreach in that community through the local churches, a lot of walking, a lot of talking, a lot of fear. So this was very, very important to us, stayed important. We never gave up on the case. Our ATF partners were anxious to join us, and I'm very happy for the announcement by USA Kirsch that we know who the shooter is. We know who one member confessed to being the driver, and we have more coming on that. But I'll let the ATF talk about it as the case does develop further. But successful conclusion for sure.
And we obviously welcome federal involvement in the crimes that occur because the sentences are much tougher, right?
Absolutely, and this happened across state lines also, and there was felons using guns, which brought the ATF option on the table immediately, and we seized that opportunity.
We had a situation with the 7-Eleven on Highland in Holman, where unfortunately a couple years ago the clerk was killed, and that was another horrible tragedy. And in that case, the U.S. attorney charged the gentleman, I use the term loosely, the defendant in that case, with federal Hobbs Act violation, and he was convicted of that, wasn't he, Chief?
Yes.
Which he got like 20 years, and which is way more severe than if the same person was charged with state crimes. So when the U.S. attorney gets involved, and the FBI gets involved, and ATF gets involved, it helps all of us because that bad person goes away for twice the sentence. And so in this case, that's real good news. I mean, it's a horrible tragedy, obviously, but all we could ask is once we catch the bad guy, that the legal system does what it's supposed to do. And in this case, I want to thank the U.S. Attorney for helping us out, because we need their help. So, thanks, Chief. All right, let's go ahead and jump in.
While Chief has the mic, sir, we'll do a couple more police matters.
Sure.
On the corner of Oakdale and 175th, everyone runs the four-way stop. Cars, school buses, semis, can you help?
We can. I'll make sure there's someone out there starting tomorrow.
Next up, there were 3 houses in the central area with 4 break-ins and some robberies. This is the 7300 area of Holman.
Okay. Nice neighborhood.
Any
obviously.
info on that?
Chief?
I don't personally. We have community affairs here with us.
I know, wasn't there that was one where it was like in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning?
We had a rash of them a few months back, and we caught that person.
Yeah. That was the one that I think they came over from Munster.
Right.
Walking.
Right. It was
Yeah.
all walking.
Right.
And it was attached to Lansing
Yeah.
incident also.
Right.
And we solved that
Right,
one.
right. Yeah, attached to it.
I'd have to check with community affairs. I'll be happy to talk to whoever had the question right after to meet me with Captain Alcox over there from community affairs at the table. Raise your hand, Kelvin. If you have a specific question about what's going on over there, we'll have that answer for you. That's why
Edison
he's here.
Park's got a great crime watch, as I'm sure you all are aware. We have a thriving network of crime watches across the city where these stats and your particular crime watch complaints go really right to the source they need to go to. Captain Alcox is the head of community outreach, basically, and this is his job, is to listen to you, report back to us so that we change the way we police to try to, prevent these types of rash burglaries that we had. Questions?
Thank you, Chief. Mayor. Next up, Water Department. Are there any plans to paint or repair the water tower at the Water Department at Columbia and 165th?
Did Ed put that one in?
No.
And how much it costs? $700,000 to do each tank, right? $700,000 to paint a water tank. And I'm not saying this is a bad question. It's a great question. That tank looks like crap. It's rusted, and it is on our priority list. I know it's on his priority list. Sometimes his priority list and my priority list don't mesh perfectly, but Ed, you've been talking to me about this for a couple years at least.
That's correct.
Right. Do you have any plans immediately, or?
The tank needs substantial repairs.
Yeah.
I mean, just to paint it would cost $700,000, but the top half of the tank is rusting away. To repair it and paint it, the total would probably be in the neighborhood of $1.3 million.
So is there a chance, I don't like that tank.
Correct.
I think that's a marketable corner, and we have a big water tank taking up a commercial corner that could be very vibrant without a tank. So I've always been of the opinion maybe we should get rid of this tank, develop that corner, put another tank in another less productive part of the city. That's sort of like the stalemate, because if you notice, we've painted our water tanks across the city. Hessville recently got a facelift. The one in South Hammond got a facelift. We got a brand new one built over off of Michigan, where City Hall used to be at one point. This is the last tank we're sort of
This is the last tank.
haggling about, right?
Correct.
But obviously, we have to have a plan soon, because it is rusting. There's no doubt about it. I noticed that myself.
Nope. I agree. And that tank also pressurizes the south end of the city. So
Yes.
plan has to be drawn up to replace it with a standpipe or a new tank and to move it elsewhere.
Thank you. Great question. That's a great question. So whoever did, good job. Ann, good job. Did Ed get you to do that? It was probably Casey then, right? I got a lot of water department people here right now. So, thank you, Ann. Good question. It's getting to the point where it's becoming an eyesore. I didn't want to use that word, but I agree. It is definitely rusting out. But I wanted you to know that's sort of the haggling that's going on is, are we going to spend $1 million to repair, paint, make it nice, and then have to build another water tank, a couple years down the road? Or is it better maybe just to shut that one down, tear it down, and then rebuild another one? But both of them are costly. So that's sort of what's going on. I appreciate the question, though. Anybody want to follow that up? Hessville was our latest tank that we painted, and I've been encouraging the water department to put nice logos on there. Last time they had logos on there, my father was mayor. It's like, think Hammond. And now it's College Bound. And the Hessville tank, for those of you, funny thing about Hammond is some of us just stay in our neighborhoods and we don't really get out and see the city. That one in Hessville, it's really spectacular. They did a great job when they painted that. So I imagine that's the same design we'll be looking at again. So great question. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, code enforcement. Is there any way people can be cited for not throwing their garbage in their garbage can and leaving a mess in the alley?
Great question.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Jaime Prieto, head of Hammond's Code Enforcement.
Yes, they can be cited. Typically, when it's something like that, we like to talk to the owner, landlord, or whatever to try to correct that situation as quickly as possible. Instead of sending a citation out, it could take weeks, whatnot. We do have a green sticker. It's a warning sticker that we put out there for 10 days. That, you know, and after those 10 days, if it's not cleaned up, we do send a citation. But we typically like to talk to the homeowner, talk to the tenant, talk to the landlord about situations like this, so that way, you know, we could nip it in the bud as quickly as possible.
Thank you. I'd like to also point out, somebody told me one time that in politics, the art of repetition is very key. And I know what they say, because talking to residents, I think we talk and we can put the message out, but I'm only talking to 100 residents at a time, or maybe 105 with Go Hammond TV included. So I have to repeat myself over and over again. And one of the things I constantly talk about is the Hammond 311 app. Okay, this is if you have a smartphone and you haven't downloaded this, you're the type of person that would really enjoy it. Why do I say that? Because you're here. If you're showing up to Mayor's Night Outs, participating in your community, this is the app for you. It's called Hammond 311. It's on See Click Fix. I'm going to pass off to IT department. We have the department head here, so he can explain it a little better than I can. Chris Campbell, how you doing, Chris?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
Hammond 311, great. It's for iPhones or Android devices. It's easy to download, easy to install. It's really easy to use. So if you have an issue that you see throughout the city, you can take a picture of it using the app. Drop down for things to pick. You could do a code violation. Maybe you see the garbage or you see a pothole. You pick it, take a picture of it, submit it. It goes to the department that has to fix that. And you'll be notified when we receive the problem, and you'll be notified when we fix it.
It literally goes to the top of the pile, too. Like, I know in Public Works, Johnny, could you grab a microphone real quick? In Public Works, you have to imagine, on a nightly basis, there's probably 30 or 40 action items for them when they get to work. Every day. Every day somebody did something with their garbage, or there's a pothole, or there's something going on. So Public Works gets into work every day, but there's, on the top of the pile, See Click Fix. Is that a true story?
Absolutely, Mayor. We get here, Colleen gets here at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Right when she walk in, she start making the tickets for the foremen before they go out. And we address every situation. And if there's an issue, whether it's code, because we get a lot of calls from 311 from other departments. So what we do, we follow up on it, and we try to take care of that as soon as possible, Mayor.
And, you know, the thing about the old-fashioned way, which is calling us up, calling the mayor's office, you know, like, your key when dealing with government is try to figure out the way to avoid the red tape, okay? I am human red tape. I'm being honest. I get hundreds of phone calls every day. People are like, nobody picked up my garbage, I'm calling the mayor. I'll take your phone call, but that's really going the route of most resistance. The best thing to do is, the old-fashioned way is to call Johnny's department, say, nobody picked up my garbage, I need somebody out here. And then they'll fill out the ticket, and hopefully the next day they'll get to it. What if it's after hours and Johnny's staff is already at home? They go to work at like 5 in the morning, right? 311, 24 hours a day. Goes right to the top of the pile. 311 is a great app. Chris, every month and every year it's bigger. The number of issues reported and the number of users keeps growing, right? Is that true?
The number of users continues to grow, and the number of issues reported.
What are we at right now? About 5,000 people total with Android and iPhone, or is it?
We're around 4,000.
4,000. Yeah. So 4,000 people are using it, and typically that means 3 or 4 issues a person. I've done probably at least a dozen myself. Thousands and thousands of issues are being addressed through this app. It's great. It's really a neat app. In fact, other cities have followed our lead on this. And, you know, copying is a great form of flattery. So, anyway, great question. Thank you.
We've got the cards in back, Mayor. They look like this.
Thank you.
For
Hold it
the
up.
easy install on your phone.
We can get it.
So right here in the resource table on your
Right
way
on the
out. If
resource
you want to
table. It
grab
tells
one.
you down how to download it. I could do it. I'm not super technological. Okay, it's great though. If you saw graffiti and you took a picture of the graffiti, it says, what is it? It's graffiti, and it's a picture. It's GPS tagged on the picture, right?
Uses GPS from the phone.
And it goes to you, and then you zap it right to graffiti.
Yeah, and the system is actually smart, so we've taught it what to do. So now we know who takes care of graffiti in our departments, it automatically goes there. It takes the guesswork out of, hey, is that your job? Is that my job? We don't have to worry about
Right.
it.
So
Leave it
you
to
used to
guys.
be like everything had to go through you, now you're saying it goes right to the department?
Right.
And then your job mostly is to monitor and make sure that things are being followed up, right?
Yeah, I get all the emails.
Gotcha. Really? That's a lot of emails, because I get a lot of emails.
It's
Wow. Hundreds a
24
day?
hours, like you said, too.
Hundreds a day, right?
Yes.
Wow. Good call. Hammond 311, yeah. Hi, John.
I use that, app at 9 o'clock at night, that next morning at 8 o'clock, you guys are out there fixing that problem.
It literally goes to the top of the pile. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's true, goes right to the top of the pile. Maybe that's not fair, but in another thing that she just said is, I use it after hours. You know, you call my office, you get voicemail right now, the voice recorder. You call up Public Works, you get the same thing. But they'll be there tomorrow at 4 in the morning. I imagine most of us will be sleeping then, right? You could communicate with us right now with this. So, questions? Hammond 311 is great. Like I said, politics is the fine art of repeating yourself over and over again. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, engineering's up next. We got about 4 questions.
I'd like to introduce Dean Button, Hammond City Engineer. How you doing, Dean?
First up, Dean, Lost Marsh Development. Was there a traffic study done on New York Avenue? How did you determine the development design, and is it safe and sound?
Well, where's Mylan? Oh, Rick, there you go. Rick, I know you can talk about it also, so why don't you go ahead and start off, and then we'll have Rick speak on behalf
So
of the
the
Port
short
Authority.
answer is no. A traffic study was not completed at that location. I do know that was, so I've been a Hammond resident for about 7 years now. I wasn't here years ago, but I know that there was an old research center that was very
Yeah.
busy at one time at the college campus.
2500 New York Avenue.
So yeah, we're adding some 14 residences, paired homes, and some 7 or so residences, six single-family residences out there. We don't expect there to be a great deal of traffic in that
You
area
know,
as a
I know
result of this.
the attorney is here that's been working on this project. Kevin, do you mind if I just go right to you on this so you can? So this is Kevin Smith, he's the attorney for the Hammond Park Department. That's why he's here tonight, but he's also attorney for the Hammond Port Authority. So Kevin, this is a residential development that we're putting right off of New York Avenue where the single-family homes will actually be with their backyards going out on the golf course.
That's correct, Mayor. So I guess just to give everybody a little bit of a geography lesson, if you're not sure where this project is, if you know where Calumet College of St. Joseph is, there on New York Avenue, it's about 3 blocks to the south. And right on New York Avenue, there's actually some land that goes back into the golf course that the Redevelopment Commission owns. And those lots are where the paired homes that Dean talked about are going to go right on New York Avenue. They're each going to have a driveway, so it's not going to be on-street parking there. They'll each have a driveway into an attached garage, and then there's going to be a cul-de-sac that's going to go back into towards the golf course where the 6 single-family homes will be. So I know our city planner, Mayor Brian Poland, also was very instrumental in getting the plat together, and I'm sure he may have something additional. And just so everybody knows,
So, like, Kevin, let me get, so 6 single-family homes are going to be back in the golf course part.
That's
so like
correct.
Like you pull into like a court kind of thing?
Yeah, like you'd pull into a cul-de-sac. Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then on New York Avenue, in the 2600 block in that ballpark?
Correct.
Will be townhomes?
Yeah, 14 paired homes. What I mean by paired homes is they share a common wall, but they're separate, about 1,400 to 1,600 square feet. No basement, on slab, two bedrooms, nice, very nice construction homes. And those are going to go out to an RFP to potential developers. One contractor will build all those. And then the single-family homes are going to be up for auction over the winter. We're waiting to get back some appraisals for those lots.
Brian, could you talk a little bit about any concerns you may have as the planner with this development coming in?
Oh, sure. Because the subdivision did go through the Plan Commission, and we did look at all those issues. I think there's some technical things we still have to work out from the subdivision before you're ready to do the auctions. But we're talking about a total of 20 housing units in a neighborhood of several hundred units, and just from the sheer scale of it, this is not really a significant impact on a minor.
New York is considered.
It's a minor arterial.
Minor
Yeah.
arterial, because it's not like super small.
Yeah,
residential,
right. So it's already a street that has a lot of higher traffic on it.
Calumet College, that's how they get in.
Right, exactly. So an addition of however many cars would be associated with those houses should not be a major impact on the traffic.
Cool, thank you, I appreciate it. Dennis Radowski is the head of Hammond Neighborhoods Inc., United Neighborhoods Inc., sorry.
United Neighborhoods Inc.
I blanked for a second. Dennis, we don't know necessarily if UNI is going to be involved in the marketing of this piece of property. That's sort of being worked through the process, but you just got done in Hessville with, I don't know, 25-acre subdivision? Is it right around there, 20-acre subdivision? With
Parish View or the other?
Parish View.
Parish View, I don't know what the acreage is, but it's 28 lots.
28 lots. We're pretty much at capacity now?
I'm happy to say we sold a lot yesterday evening, and we're down to 6 lots.
Down to 6 lots. What are the home prices going for in that neighborhood?
Well, that's, if individuals are building their own homes, we've had people building homes for upwards of $300,000 in that area. I think the last 2 were $300,000. Typically, the house that we're building is going anywhere from $217,000 to $225,000. And I should say they don't last long. They're on the market maybe 2 weeks, and they're sold.
And we literally targeted that niche because in Hammond we have a lot of homes below that price, and we have a few that are way above that price. Exactly. But that niche right in the 200s is something we were specific. We wanted to try to attract that market.
It's good for the family sizes because they're typically 2 full baths. They have room for expansion in the lower level, and they're anywhere from 3 to 4 bedrooms.
Kevin, now talking about, listening to what Dennis just said about the neighborhoods and UNI property at Parish View, we were specific about going after the niche in the 200 market. This with your backyard, these are big lots we're talking about.
They are.
On a beautiful, one of the best golf courses in the Chicagoland area. Are we looking at 200s for the home? Is it going to be higher than that? Like, what are our goals?
Sure, Mayor. Most likely it will be higher than that. There are going to be some covenants that will be filed. We're working with Brian Pohl, the city planner, to make sure that there's certain base requirements as far as square footage, as far as garages and driveways and things like that, so that we know that those houses will complement the area around there, namely the golf course. And we want it to be a very nice new home area for the city.
Gotcha. And I know Whiting's done a very good job with higher end
Center
homes.
Street.
Right over there, right by Whiting High football field.
That's correct.
Those homes are, I dare say, in the 400s?
That's correct, Mayor. They're in the high 300s and low 400s.
And they've sold, so.
No more lots left.
So we're confident about this project. We're excited about it. Anytime we're building new homes in our city, that's a positive thing. So hopefully we answered all your questions. Does anybody have any questions about New York Avenue? Hi, sir. Nice. Sure. You're giving it to my department heads right now, and we've responded to you. You got them right in front of you. No, he didn't say that. He said New York is semi-arterial. He didn't say that. He said New York is semi-arterial, which is a fairly major street. They have collector streets where they're very major. They're like, it's still in a residential area, but like they're collecting true local traffic. Dean, could you talk about what Brian said, semi-arterial? I mean, New York's not a small neighborhood street.
Right, so in general traffic, transportation design, you have local streets building up to minor arterials, major arterials, corridors, and so on. And so those, the traffic volumes determine how much, or how to classify a street. So that's basically where we are. I believe New York Avenue is classified as a minor arterial. It basically collects the local streets and is designed to handle the traffic load in that area. These additional 20 homes is not going to have a major impact in the traffic in that area.
And not only that, and we'll come back to you, sir. We're not cutting you off. I want to remind everybody, Cal College, which if you're from south of Cal College, that's how you get to the school. You go 129th onto New York and you drive into the college that way, past this gentleman's house. There's over 800 students at Cal College. So that alone shows that it's a pretty major street. Just to get to Cal College, you have to go on New York Avenue.
Mayor, I also wanted to point out, and your administration did this, is that it took on the demolition of 2500 New York Avenue,
right,
which was a big demolition project of a old building, old lab building that was actually going to be a hospital. And you can imagine the impact traffic-wise if that ever turned into a hospital. So there's a big difference between that building being used as a hospital and these 20 homes.
Gotcha. I think it's gonna help your neighborhood, sir. I mean, I understand you live there and you're concerned. I get it.
Well, this is the first time that I guess the 28 cars are gonna be backing onto New York Avenue from the driveway, and they're gonna be going into the driveway.
Actually, aren't they gonna get into their garage off an alley?
No, there's no alley.
The driveways for the paired homes, Mayor, are right on New York, but they are driveways into their garage. So, yes, they may have additional, half
You're
dozen cars, dozen cars.
Okay. I appreciate it. And I mean, it's important you bring this up. And I mean, first off, this is a project run through the Port Authority. I mean, the Port Authority is part of the City of Hammond, but it's independent, okay? So we're working with the Port Authority, obviously, if we want this to be successful, but you're also talking to the city engineer and the city planner, and they're responsible for that as well. So I do want to point out, we're listening to you, and I appreciate your concern. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, questions about New York Avenue? All right, let's go ahead.
Okay, Mayor, about the proposed new South Shore Rail Station around 173rd, just east of Holman.
Yeah.
If this station is built, most people coming from Illinois must pass through the intersection at 165th and Holman, trying to get to the train station at the same time as many children are going to Kenwood Elementary. This intersection is already very unsafe due to the heavy car traffic at that time of the morning.
One of the more dangerous intersections in the city, for sure.
I think this location for the South Shore Station may be a very dangerous situation for the young children of our neighborhood.
I love that question, and quite frankly, I agree with almost every sentiment expressed in it. And, there's a lot about the South Shore expansion we're talking, okay? There's a lot of concern about the cost of the project, whether or not the project's actually going to help our city. Obviously, if the project's financially approved, the city of Hammond's volunteered to contribute $27 million towards this project over a period of 30 years, is it? 20 years? Okay, it is 30. 900 a year for 30 years, right?
Right.
But, so if it's approved, we're committed to the expansion. I want to tell you why I'm in it. The Gateway Station. We have a current station right now on Gosselin. This Gateway Station is transformational for a neighborhood that needs transformation. It's literally a couple $100 million will be spent in our city if this project goes forward. Now, I hear a lot of people in Hammond that are like, this is their thing. They're against the train. Under no circumstances whatsoever will they support the train. It's easier when you're on Facebook to take positions like this. But when you're the mayor of a city and you have a part of your city that's really old and the infrastructure is very old and we need investment and it's hard to get people to invest in that area because everything's so old, if we put $200 million into a specific part of our city, I think that's the kind of thing that could turn that part of the city around, and that's why I'm in it. Now, the question was about the South Hammond Station. The Hammond City Council and the mayor offered, NICD, take it out. We don't want it. The residents don't want it. The councilman expressed opposition to it. The council expressed opposition to it. I don't really see the big need for it. We're going to have a station with about 3/4 of a mile from another station in Munster. Why don't you just take ours out? Save a couple bucks. Just give us the gateway. That's really the important part as far as I'm concerned for our city. And we offered to them. And I tell you, it's coming from higher up than your mayor. There's somebody who wants that station, despite how I feel, despite how the councilman and the council feel, despite how you feel. And I have a feeling I know where it's coming from, but it's coming from higher up than me. Like the congressman, it's important to him. Purdue, it's important to them. The RDA, they love it. Now, I can tell you what we can do, and it's something we definitely express concern with, is not changing the character of that neighborhood. It's a neighborhood of single-family homes. And I will oppose TOD or any type of, high-density development going into that area. That's something we insist upon, and we could zone that out. But, whether or not the station's coming, if we're going to build a second station, put one in downtown Hammond. Why are we doing a station there? The Munster station is going to happen. Matt, what street is that off of Munster? It's Ridge and Manor? Ridge and Manor. That station's going to happen. Munster, I think Munster wants it. Get rid of ours. So you have the station at Gateway, and then your next stop would be Munster, and then your next stop would be Dyer, the end of the line, right? But right now, you go to the Gateway, next stop would be South Hammond, then a minute and a half after the South Hammond, you're gonna be in Munster, and then you're gonna go down to Dyer. So I guess my answer to your question is, I think the council and the mayor agree with you. And quite frankly, we don't see the need for it, but this station, somebody higher up than us on the food chain is really pushing it.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I just wanna
and I
jump
know,
in.
Brian, you might want to grab the microphone also. Brian and Dean have both been very involved in this.
I just want to jump in. Yeah, Brian and I both reviewed the environmental impact study that NICD did and made comments specifically on the traffic concerns that are in that area, because the consultant from NICD decided that there wasn't a lot of traffic impact in that area, and we disagree. So we are pressing NERC, the Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, to provide some funding for a traffic study for that area, basically 165th, Calumet, Holman, basically to the Little Cal. I mean, it kind of closes down on that.
Why would you do a traffic study on this, but the gentleman asked about traffic study on New York Avenue? I know what the answer is, but why are you doing a traffic study here?
There's much more traffic volume.
Like what, 100 times higher volume? Maybe more?
Probably way more than that.
Okay,
Mayor.
so like,
Yeah.
that's, as soon as you said traffic study, I'm like, great, here we go. So like, we're talking about 20 residences, or in that about, on New York Avenue, you're talking about thousands of potential.
the
How big is
traffic
the parking
volume-
lot they want?
Yeah, it's 1,000 cars.
So like,
Now, they're not going to build 1,000 cars right away, but.
and then
you know,
the
they're
big
gonna-
question is, where is that parking lot gonna be? That's a big,
173rd and Lyman. And
that's our proposal, right?
that's where they would like it.
Yeah, because
173rd
then you'd be able to come off of 173rd and
Yeah,
pull into
and
the
they
lot.
think that
which-
Harrison's not going to be that much trouble, and we said, you need to expand your area of concern as it relates to the traffic area. So we pushed them on that, and we are asking NERC for money on that.
Brian, could you jump in a little bit? I know Brian's been working real close also.
I thought Dean covered that really well.
There you go. Good, thank you. I agree. Questions about South Shore? South Station, sounds like that's what we're talking about. I mean, any question on South Shore is appropriate. Going once? Going twice? Sold. All right, let's move on.
Mayor, what is happening with Hammond's responsibility for the Little Cal flood control effort along state line?
Great question. Oh, good question. This is a good question, and I know where this is coming from. So, Dean, we want you to jump in and cover this one also, okay? First off, do me a favor. I've been mayor 15 years.
You have.
One of the things I'm real proud of, and I'm gonna embarrass this gentleman again. I was in mayor yet, and Bob knows I'm about to talk about him. I was walking, candidate Tom, knocking on doors in Hessville, going around with a guy that's been in politics a lot longer than me, a guy I look up to a lot, Bob Golick. Bob said to me, Mayor Tom, you got to get these homes out of the floodplain. Right, Bob? He said, this is what you should do. If you can do this, people are going to love you for doing this. And I was like, and Bob explained the whole situation to me. So I walk into City Hall a couple weeks later, because that was towards the end of the campaign, and I was like, let's get these homes out of the floodplain. And we hired a consultant that used to work for FEMA. And since that time, we've removed
9,000 structures, saving the residents $6 million per year in insurance.
And I give credit where credit is due. That was Bob Golick's idea from the start, so thank you very much, Clerk Golick. So, now, the great thing is we removed 9,000 structures and $6 million of savings of unnecessarily paying to FEMA. All right? Now, frustratingly enough, we got like blankets, like neighborhoods and hundreds of homes out, and then there'd be like 3 homes in a neighborhood in a floodplain over here, like a little pocket that we can't even tell looking at with our naked eye, right? And in Robertsdale, is he here? Smitty here?
He's in the back.
Where is he? Smitty, who I love. Okay, Jeff Smith is a good guy. He's our fire chief. Like if I had to move, Vinny you call Jeff, he would be there. He's that kind of guy. So I would do anything for Jeff Smith. All right, Jeff, what happened to your home after we got everybody in Robertsdale out of the floodplain? Where'd he go?
He was here, but he
What?
lost.
I was sitting there like laying it up for him. One of my good friends, the fire chief, his garage was still in the floodplain, and we couldn't get it out. It was like an inch too low. So for years, he had to pay flood insurance on his garage, and and everybody, all of his neighbors were out and everything, but his garage was an inch too short. So we have to like go back for these pockets that are still on the floodplain and hire again and make a case why these few homes that are left have to come out of the floodplain. So Dean, I wanted to lay the groundwork because there's some people in South Hammond that are frustrated with you and me because we're not doing a good enough job getting homes out of the floodplain.
You're right.
And I realize there's a couple homes that are stuck and we're trying our best, but keep in mind the big picture here. We removed 9,000 pieces of property from the floodplains. We've been pretty good at it. There's a few that are stuck in it, we're doing our best. There's special circumstances with these cases. So Dean.
Mayor, at Christmas time, just before Christmas, just before Don Novak retired, we received word from FEMA that we've got another 230 homes out of the Robertsdale floodplain area.
Which is outstanding.
Total.
By the way.
So the problem is.
By the way, Smitty's home finally came out.
That was it.
last one. So his
That was
garage
it.
is fully out of the floodplain. He's like his other
Yeah,
neighbor.
so now FEMA's got a 60-day comment period to people to remonstrate against that. They have a chance to remonstrate against FEMA's findings. So
Uh-huh.
we have to wait through that process, and on May the 4th, those homes will finally come out of the
Okay.
floodplain. So it's a protracted period.
So now we're talking about South Hammond now.
Yeah, in South Hammond.
We have a similar
there's-
situation
There's
with
22
homes.
homes in South Hammond at State Line, and those people have been paying very large amounts of flood
What,
insurance. for-
$1,200 a year?
At
More?
least. Maybe
Which stinks.
maybe as
$100
much as
a month?
$3,000 a year.
For something, you're helping bail out, all these other places that are on the coast, and it's frustrating for us, just like it's frustrating for you.
Well, and the more we take people out of the floodplain, the more FEMA loses money, and they got to recover it some other way. Being that said, the Corps of Engineers in December asked us for a emergency response plan. We provided that to them last week, and they've made their entire submittal for their letter of map revision to get people out of the flood, these 22 homes out of the floodplain. And then we're down to just, like you said, just very few pockets around the city. You're probably looking at less than 50 homes in the city of the some 9,500 structures that have been in.
So I know
Hammond
that
have
something
come
recently came down where the Army Corps of Engineers is expecting some information from us to help move this process along, and you're working on that.
It's done, Mayor.
And there was a resident in
Submitted.
particular that's very involved and very good citizen, but was frustrated with, we got a letter that was not a nice letter, that's scolding us basically on not caring enough about getting people out of the flood zone. So for me, I'm like, cut 9,000 homes out of the flood zone, obviously we care. But like, I understand if you're still in, it's frustrating, but.
Well, and we did a ribbon cutting in October for the flood wall, the state line levee wall. And
That's a curve.
FEMA responded to the Corps in October on their, what's called a conditional letter of map revision. They responded with comments and questions, and the Corps waited 2 months to tell us that we needed to provide them an emergency preparedness plan.
So
it took us a couple of weeks to do that. That's in. The Corps filed the LOMAR. They should get a response from FEMA in 30 to 60 days. They'll go through another public comment period. You're looking at 4 or 5 months before we hear back from FEMA that those folks will come out of the floodplain.
But
That's
we're on
the best
this.
we can do.
We're on this.
It is in FEMA's court.
And I
now,
understand
Mayor.
if you're one of the homes, you're frustrated, I get it. I'd be frustrated too, but we're working on this, and I just wanted to paint the picture so that we could talk about it with accurate information. So, any other questions on this process? Smitty back yet? Bathroom, huh? He's like, I got the deputy fire chief over there, what am I doing here, right? So, anyway, we'll go ahead and move on.
Next question, Mayor. When will the LED streetlights be installed on Monroe? They have been installed on the adjacent streets.
Good, I love this. Big picture question, I'm gonna go to Heather, so that she can talk about this whole project. We're going through an efficiency project in our city that's giving us a new fleet of vehicles that are powered by alternative fuels, propane to be exact. We also have a process where we're changing out all of our old, low-energy, pink bulbs and replacing them with LED bulbs that are like 30% of the cost and just as bright. I mean, obviously, we spend millions of dollars each year keeping our lamps lit. And anytime you could save some energy, that drives our prices down, that drives our NIPSCO bills down a lot. So Heather really spearheaded this whole project. So Heather, could you go ahead and talk a little bit about this whole?
Sure. We actually started up north and have been working our way south. So we're getting towards the end. I think we're at about 75% complete with the city-owned streetlights. I did actually find out on our update call last week that since the time that we did the initial evaluation on the streetlights, because the councilmen in each district usually put in some of their gaming dollars to do the decorative ornamental lighting throughout the city, we've added an additional 1,400 new light posts. So we are talking now about going through a phase 2 of this project so that we ensure that all of those new bulbs will be uniform to the ones that we're switching out right now, and working with the engineering department so that when we do the next wave of the new streetlights, when they start doing those probably in the spring this summer, that we're using the same LED light bulb that you're going to see in the switch out projects. We are also working with NIPSCO because the city owns some of those streetlights, but not all of them. We are working with NIPSCO to take advantage of their LED switch-out program. We have been in communication with them, and we're pushing as hard as we can. And we're being told that 2019 is when we can expect to see some of those to be turned into the LED light bulbs to match the ones the city is doing. We've been told basically because of the size of the city, they're working in the smaller communities first, and then they'll be hitting Hammond. So we're working with that, and we're also talking about doing an additional phase of this project to ensure that all of the lighting within our park systems will be switched out to LEDs, because those were not a part of the initial package. But because of the great response that we've had and the savings that we're going to realize, we're looking at adding that to the program as well.
Heather, how much do we spend on keeping our lights lit every year? NIPSCO. Just for the city, not counting sanitary district or water, which are huge bills in themselves.
Probably about utility one, 600, about $1 million.
So if you could save on the streetlight portion, if you could save 40, 50% on that, you're talking real savings. So like the whole theory behind this energy efficiency grant and program that we passed is that you put up a lot of money through a bond up front, and over time, because you're saving so much on your energy bills, you could easily pay back the money you borrowed. So, and this
The
was-
lighting program, because it has such a great payback, and we have so many streetlights within the city, it's helping to fund the other parts of the project, specifically the vehicle program.
And I'm going to have the chief talk about that if you don't mind.
Yep, that's
The
fine.
vehicle program, we're about to, within another month or two, we're going to get 60, mid-February, 50 brand-new police cars with alternative fuels. Now, I'm not a police officer. I know that's no shock to you. I've never driven a police car, okay? I don't know what it's like to drive a propane police car. So we got a couple propane police cars and gave it to the officers in the dead of winter and said, step on the gas, peel the tires, do everything you normally do as a police officer, and tell me whether or not this is going to work. Because once we sign up, you got propane cars. So, you know, I was pleasantly surprised when the chief did this test. You want to talk a little about it, Chief?
Yeah, we're given the opportunity not just to look at the car, but we actually had the engineering firm come to our city, because we have our own mechanics here, and actually build the car in front of us. Because we wanted to make sure it was mechanically safe for officers. Basically, the container where the LP was going to go in the vehicle literally has to be bulletproof. Because if we take bullets in our cars, we have in the past, you know, we want to make sure there's not an explosion of that gas inside the car. We have a choice of mounting options where that goes in the car. We want it in the safest place in case of accident, or again, or some type of shooting was to happen involving the vehicle. We were very happy with the results. It's a seamless operation. It's computer controlled under the hood. The gas, we actually chose a donut. It replaces the spare tire where it normally go. You can't see it. It doesn't take up room. We don't have to modify the vehicles. Cages go in the same. It'll run on propane. It initially starts up on gas for about maybe 30 seconds. Then it switches over to propane, and it will run on that propane until that tank has exhausted itself, which in most cases will be the entire shift of the officer. We're building a gas station on site at the police department, which we have a regular gas station now, but we have an LP station as well right beside it. We would expect most shifts we will not use gas. Our budget for it, our gas budget is one of our biggest single line items, roughly $1 million a year, and I'm not the controller by any means, but doing simple math by what propane costs, the miles per gallon is about the same. We should save about 1/3 of that as we get our entire fleet changed over. We have 50 squad cars going to hit the road, as Heather said. We have 10 detective units on the road right now with LP, and as soon as that gas station goes online, we're going to begin fueling those. But we have run a tank through them and tested them out. The switch over is seamless. We can be in a pursuit. It can switch gas tanks, and the officer will never know.
Thank you, Chief. So this is a real cool program that we're going through. It's a process. There's a lot of lights in the city. And you said we're starting north to south? Right. So, yeah. I think they started in my neighborhood, actually. I had different colored. I had the test neighborhood. We had like different colored lights up and down. I think they changed them over though, but I don't know. Yes, sir. You have a question?
So to specifically address the question.
Mm-hmm.
Look, right out here, Madison was done well over a month ago. For some reason, the road got skipped into Jackson, Bender, and Harrison.
Okay. Who's doing this work? It's contractors.
It's contracted out, so I don't have their exact schedule, but they were working north to south, so if there was something that needed, they're all going. If we own them, they're being switched. So
We're not the ones that are actually doing the work though,
they
sir,
expect
so,
to be done with this within the next couple of months.
okay? So, thank you for the question. Any follow-up?
Could we get the 100 block of that street, or I could just go look at it?
Yeah, 6,900 of,
69.
169 going, I think they did a few starting around 170.
on what street
I'll
again,
go
sir?
out and
Edison?
make sure. I'll follow up.
What street again? Monroe, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. Any other follow-ups on that? We don't get too many questions on the energy efficiency program, but just talking about police cars and utility lights, it's a $500,000 savings a year for switching out the lights and getting different types of gas. So that's the theory behind it. It's a great program, actually. And Heather, our city controller, is the one that spearheaded this whole effort. So I wanted to say thanks. And when you see all the brand-new police cars driving all over the city, we didn't pay for them. Our savings paid for them. So good
And
job,
Mayor,
Heather.
with that program, so we will be putting an entirely new fleet, not just police cars, but the public works vehicles, the garbage trucks you see out there, the snow plows. The street department just got a few snow plows this year, street sweepers with this program, all new lighting within our city-owned buildings and the street lighting, and we will actually end up saving over the course of the program an additional $16 million on top of what it costs to make those improvements.
That's crazy. So thank you. Good job. I know you can't have a raise. So. All right. Question?
Just
Yeah.
a comment from a resident, Mayor. The 7300 block of Homan, they love the lights on Homan. They're nice and bright.
Yeah, those are the new LED. They're very, very clean white light. It's funny to say that, but if you look at the old-fashioned bulbs, it's like a pink. It's a very nice pink. Kevin really enjoys the pink light. He told me about it. Oh, I really like the pink. It's like, yeah, is it really, you like it so much that we're losing 50% of our energy costs every year? So we converted Kevin's lights over to the really crisp white, and we're saving a lot of money. So he longs for the days. So, yes, ma'am.
They were orange in my neighborhood, and they're really ugly, and
Yeah.
the new lights, it's brighter, and the neighborhood just looks a lot.
Thank you. When I first noticed this, I remember the project, because I went back to the engineer, I'm like, what did we do to Southeastern? And it's like, those are the new LED lights, Mayor. And I tell you, that project got so many compliments. When we did Southeastern, right over by the old bowling alley, it was like, it was amazing what it did to the street, and that's where my interest peaked. It's like, I love that light, and they're like, it's great, it's less than half the cost, too. So you're getting the savings, and it's beautiful, so thank you. All right, let's go.
I'm a realtor, Mayor, who lives in the city. How can I represent properties that the City Neighborhoods, Inc. sell?
Good question. 2 questions in the same mayor's night for Dennis Sadowski. This is unheard of. Dennis goes like sometimes a year and doesn't get a question. He got 2 tonight.
At least 10 months.
Well, you got 2 tonight, Dennis. So this person is a realtor, and they want to sell houses in our city, and they were wondering how they could represent your organization, if it's possible. You're a realtor also, though, right?
Am I?
Well, you're a banker, right?
A banker.
Banker, yeah.
Was
You're
a
like-
banker.
You're like a realtor. You sell houses. Anyway.
Anybody can sell the house if they have an individual who wants to buy the house. Yeah, I think the question might be, how can they list them? What we did was we put out an RFQ about 5 or 6 years ago for a listing realtor, and we probably had about 20 to 24 responses. We selected the listing realtors for our properties with the City of Hammond, and United Neighborhoods, Inc. followed with the same plan. We've been real successful with the listing realtor. However, to answer the question as it was presented, anybody can sell the house. They're all on the MLS.
Oh, good question.
And if you really want to get be of assistance to the city, find me some foreclosed or vacant houses, and we'll be glad to negotiate a deal of acquiring those. Thank you.
Thanks. Good job. Good question. You know what's interesting? I was looking around, and I have a lot of department heads before you that actually live in your district. So if you don't mind, if you're one of my department heads up here and you live in the 4th District, can you raise your hand? I noticed that. Doing a pretty good job here. All right? All right, good. I like to point that out. We always hire Hammond residents. You know, how do you know what the street conditions are like if you don't live in the city, right, Johnny? So, anyway, Ann Anderson, could you grab the microphone real quick? I read something in the paper. We didn't get Amazon.
We did not.
I didn't know if you knew that.
I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I found that right
I
away.
know you spearheaded our effort as the head of economic development. She lives right here in the 4th District also. Great job on the Amazon submission.
Thank you.
We attracted the interest of another developer, which is nice.
We did.
A nice little byproduct of that.
Very
But I
nice.
wanted to say thank you, and I also read something in the paper I didn't know if you knew about. Apple's looking for a second location for a corporate headquarters.
Really?
It would look really good in Hammond.
Thank you for the tip, Mayor.
There you go. So I was just making
Can
sure we're on the same page.
I gotta get back to the office.
All right. Thanks.
That's fabulous.
Good job. Keep up the good work. No, she really, Ann spearheaded the effort to get Amazon, and we didn't get it. But the publicity our site generated from that submission brought somebody else, and we had dinner with this person last night in Indianapolis, and it's a big opportunity for us. It's a beautiful opportunity for us, and I don't know if it would have happened, but for the fact we submitted on Amazon. So I wanted to say thank you. Good job in economic development, and it's also really cool that you're
Very
from the 4th
exciting.
District. So thanks. Good
Thank
job. All right, how we doing, Donna?
We're getting there, Mayor.
Okay.
I know this is something I'm not sure you have anything to do with, but we don't turn questions away. We never have.
This is
So
true.
we're going to ask it so you can respond. With our schools not filled to capacity, why don't we close one school and end up with open enrollment instead of voting to build a new school?
Okay.
Is Gavitt going to close? Who determines the school superintendent's salary, and how is this position filled?
Okay. I do, I have a lot on my plate, and schools are super important. Obviously, as mayor, I'm concerned with the schools. I'm concerned what's going on. I want to help as much as possible, just like we all do. But I'm not in charge of the schools. And I'm lucky because I have a great relationship with the school city where they invite me to schools all the time, once a week. I'm in the high schools and middle schools a lot. I come to Edison Elementary. I go to all the schools to talk to the kids, and I think I'm a good role model to talk to kids and talk to them honestly about what's going on in society and how lucky they are because they're getting through a lot of challenges that they'll face as an adult right now in their youth. But I don't feel comfortable answering on behalf of the school city. And Dr. Watkins, it would be more appropriate to address him and the school board. And as far as the information about Gavitt shutting down, last I heard, that is not the case. I don't think that's the case. I know there was some talk initially about that, but that talk went away very quickly. And then we residents, not everybody obviously, but we voted for a referendum in our city, and we allowed the school city to float a bond to build a new high school, Hammond High School. And last I heard, they're still having 4 high schools when this is all said and done. And from what I understand, it'll be middle high school at Gavitt, middle high school at Clark, middle high school at the new Hammond High, and Scott and Morton would stay separate. Is that still the case? And Anna Mamala, 4th District resident, longtime precinct committee woman, forever in this neighborhood, is one of your school board representatives, does a great job. Did I mischaracterize anything, Anna? Okay. So anyway, I don't feel comfortable, I'm sure that I do things as mayor that the school city doesn't agree with, but I don't think Dr. Watkins would criticize me in a school board meeting about the actions we took as a city, and I really want them to do well. And that's why I supported the referendum myself. I want Hammond to succeed, and I think it's going to be hard for us to succeed as a city without a thriving school system. That's why I supported it, and I'm glad it passed. By the way, we are the exception. As an urban city, when these referendums come up, they typically fail, almost every time. So the fact that we passed it as a city, I think is a sign of respect and support for our school city. So.
How does a senior survive with these rising costs and taxes? That's the question. It's not.
No, and that's it's really, it's funny. I tell this story. This is a story from I was talking to Kevin about the same story today, funny enough. I remember when I first became mayor, a lot of people at the time, the tax bills quadrupled. Remember, there was literally when I took office, there was some stuff that would happen, and then I walk in, I had no honeymoon. Your tax bills went up 300%. There was anger. There was fear. We're going to lose our house. I can't pay my payments anymore. That was how I walked into office. I was 34 years old, brand new mayor, okay? And I remember at the time, a lot of people were moving out. And they were moving out because they'd say, Mayor, I'm moving out for a couple reasons. Taxes are too high, and the schools. And I'd be like, wow. And obviously I'm concerned as a mayor. I don't want everybody to move out of the city after I just become mayor. It makes me look bad, right? And then I would talk to people from Illinois that are moving in our city. And I was like, why did you move to Hammond? And they say, the schools are great and the taxes are low. And I'm like, you need to get out and start talking to some people here, right? And it's so funny because it really is the perspective. You know, and I understand that people are struggling. I get that. But like, when you compare us to some of our neighbors, we're really lucky to get the services we have, including free college here in Hammond. And I understand as a senior, you're probably not going to go to college under the College Bound program, but it makes your home more valuable. But I guess it's really your perspective. You know, Indiana as a state adopted tax caps, 1%, 2%, 3%. You only pay 1% for your home's value. In Illinois, I bet you, I don't know, Heather, you know what Illinois property tax rate is for a home? 3 or 4%? 3 or 4 times higher than it is here in Hammond. So if your house is worth $100,000, you're paying $1,000 on your property taxes. So and we have programs in Hammond for seniors and disabled. It's called the Senior and Disabled Exemption. If you have that, City of Hammond gives you $500 towards that $1,000 payment. Up to $1,000. Thank you. So I get it. You know, the thing I was most scared of when I first became mayor is, what about the widow that's been in her house for 50 years and her taxes went up so much that she has to sell her house and move out? And that's what we tried to prevent. And that's why at the time the council and the mayor came up with this program, to keep you in your house, because you've been a good neighbor for us for 50 years. We don't want to get you taxed out of your home. So that's the thinking. But to say taxes are high, I would argue, because I've seen the red ink on our side of the ledger, and quite frankly, the taxpayers got the better end of the deal. And I'm a taxpayer too, okay? We got the better end of the deal as homeowners when the tax caps went into effect. And that's why now when you see schools, like School City Hammond, obviously not struggling like what's going on in Gary, and it's not just an urban city thing, Muncie school system is bankrupt right now too. So we're all feeling this pain. All the units of government, the townships, the cities, the counties, we're all getting strangled by these tax caps. And in Hammond, thankfully, we have other sources of revenue we've been living off of. Gaming revenue, obviously. Water revenue. We've created, Ed, since you've been CEO of Water Department, our water sales to Illinois, how much increase in the revenue did we get over there? It was what, less than $1 million when we took over. And now we make what, $8 million a year? So 800% increase in money from Illinois paying for our water. We give them water. We go through Lansing, we give water there. Cal City, we give water there. Chicago Heights. There's a pipeline that goes from Hammond to Chicago Heights, and they sell water to the communities around them, and they pay Hammond a premium. And we take that water revenue and we use it for us, for our streets, and things like that. So I get it. And I know, Marty, I know you got a lot of complaints. Let's just go ahead and talk about the sanitary district. You are under fire from the EPA, is that fair to say?
We're, us along with every sanitary district in the nation.
But the Hammond Sanitary District didn't have a consent decree. We were one of the final
We're
in the
one
country.
of the last few in, I don't know, I'm sure if the country and the state for sure.
For sure in the state.
The state, probably our region, Region 5.
So
that we're
recently
in.
we signed a consent decree at the end of 2017, right?
That is correct.
So this consent decree requires us, and it's mandated by the federal government, over the next 17 years to do $250 million worth of work?
It's hovering around that number over the next 17 years.
And do we have a choice? Can we say,
No.
Mr. Trump, EPA, I'd rather not spend
We have no
$250 million?
choice. We're mandated by law.
What if we don't do it?
We can go to jail. I can go to jail. A lot of my staff could go to jail.
I'm not going to jail.
The mayor's
so,
going to go to jail.
The crap is definitely rolling downhill if that happens.
I'm not going by myself.
I'm just putting it out there because I would be a bad
Remember, we're a team.
I was in a submarine. It did not work out well. So
Yeah, the problem is, Mayor, that the sanitary district is 100% supported by rates. We're not supported by taxes,
Right.
the tax bill. It's by rates. And the sanitary district is old. It has 3 customer communities, Whiting, Highland, and Griffith. And there were contracts that were put together many years ago that we thought were unfair.
they were unfair.
And when I came to you in the Hammond City Council and I said, Mayor, we need to raise rates, the first thing I was told is, get your contracts and your house in order with those customer communities. Well, we had to send them a letter telling them we were canceling them. And we all knew what they were going to do. They filed a lawsuit against us. And we went through the whole process.
It was a nasty lawsuit.
It was a 3-year battle with these customer communities through the courts and
Yep.
finally to the Indiana Supreme Court, and we lost. But what we did is we got their attention, the customer communities.
We lost the battle, but we won the war.
You're absolutely right.
How did that happen?
because at the same time, we were negotiating with the federal agencies, US EPA, Department of Justice, and IDEM, for our long-term control plan, which is still not done, but our consent decree, they actually helped us. And they went to these customer communities and said, look it.
The EPA.
The EPA. They said, we're asking the Hammond Sanitary District to spend this amount of money in 17 years. Your current contracts are way too low. And they actually helped us bring back to the table, and that was
So in that
really-
case, Griffith, the town of Griffith, and the town of Highland signed new contracts voluntarily and voluntarily raised their rates so that they satisfied Hammond and the EPA.
Yeah, I mean, they're not 100% where they need to be, but they're better than where they were.
Because originally, we're on the hook for this $250 million. It's going to happen. It's the federal government forcing us to do it. They want us to have zero discharges of combined sewer overflows, which is a noble goal. But before, Marty, when my dad was mayor, how many combined sewer overflows would they have into the Grand Calumet River?
I think hundreds.
A year?
Hundreds a year.
So every
yeah.
few days? Or multiple
Anytime we had a
times day?
rainstorm. Every rainstorm.
So then you would hear things like, there's E. coli, you can't go swimming at the beach. And you're like, man, that sucks, there's E. coli. We caused the E. coli, because our sanitary system's dumping sewage. I wouldn't drink it into the Grand Cal, and the Grand Cal goes into Lake Michigan, and then we have high E. coli and we can't go swimming. So the EPA wants that to be zero, not hundreds, not even one. They want zero. And now Marty and the engineers at the Hammond Sanitary District have to design this system to have zero overflows, and that costs money. So people get mad. They say, Mayor, my sanitary rates went up. And it's our job to communicate. Politics is the art of repetition, and tell this story. It's like, you know, we have to do this. We're not being asked. They're not giving us options. We have to design this plant to have zero overflows. And this is not just a Hammond issue. I know South Bend, Evansville, Indianapolis, they're all going through this process. Matt, you work with multiple government agencies, right? Is this an issue just in Northwest Indiana, or?
No.
Thank you.
It's not. Anytime there's a discharge, certainly when there's a potential to affect drinking water, the feds come in and tell you gotta clean it up, and it's your responsibility.
So I know Marty's taking it upon himself. He gets complaints at the sanitary district. We get complaints, and I pass it to Marty. I say, can you call him back? And Marty talks to every person that files a complaint about this, and it's not an easy thing to do. Marty's a very good salesman, though. He makes you feel good about your taxes going up, but at least he explains it to you. So
We were out, Mayor, probably a year and a half prior to the rate increase that we implemented several months ago. Myself, Matt Muta, Jeff Massey behind me, going to community meetings, mayor's night out across the city, telling people what was going to happen, why it was happening, and the mandates that we were being put under, and trying to get them to at least get an understanding of where we were headed. And it's never easy when you have to, it's not easy for me to come to you or to city council to ask for a rate increase. It's difficult, and I get that. But in order for the plant to run efficiently, you have to be able to do the things with chemicals and everything else. And when you don't have rate increases on a semi-regular basis, that's the situation that we ended up getting into.
by the way, even after our rates went up, where do we fall, Hammond?
As of today, with the rate increase, we are still the lowest in the state of Indiana. The
Not just
lowest.
bluff, we're the lowest. You're saying the number one lowest.
Number one
Even
lowest.
after you raise rates.
Even after the rate increase, yes.
That's a true story, by the way. I knew it was a leading question.
Yes.
All right. Jeff Massey helps a lot, right? Jeff, live in the 4th District, right?
Fifth.
Oh, I thought you were in the 4th.
Fifth.
You're right on the border?
I'm in right by Gavitt.
Right, no, I know where you live.
Yeah.
I thought that was the 4th, my
No,
bad.
it's still 5th District.
I was trying to make a point, sorry.
No, sorry. I can move if you need me to.
All right, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They're separate entities, and ultimately, yes, because ultimately, it all comes back to Heather. Ultimately, like, at the end of the day, if we lost money in water revenue, it would ultimately filter all the way back to us, and ultimately, it's the council and the mayor that end up losing money to do infrastructure projects in their district, because we're all, tied together. But, they're separate businesses, though. But it's on the same bill. So the funny thing is, Marty raises rates because he has to, and then Ed gets tons of complaints because it's on the water bill. So they call up Ed and they yell at Ed for the rate increase. Ed, how many do you get complaints? And it's Marty, and Ed's like, you need to call Marty, and so that Marty can give you the talk. So, all All right, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, in the back.
That was my question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, I talked to the two gentlemen over there. I'm sorry, if I went to my boss when I was working and I told him I wanted a 49% increase in my budget, it would take me a half hour to pull his shoe out of my ass. That is outrageous.
It's not done, sir.
I don't care if you're gonna tell me it's the lowest in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
It's the lowest in the state.
It's not done, sir.
Wait, let me tell you something. NIPSCO raised our rates. I
It's
pay
true.
$40 more a month. You, which I appreciate a lot, because a lot of times it helped me and my wife buy groceries.
Yes, sir.
You gave us $500 a year.
Senior and disabled, right.
NIPSCO's $40 increase this year, that's $480. Their increase goes over that, $580.
I'm not defending NIPSCO.
You can't do anything, and this is getting worse. You've gotta help the seniors on a fixed income. You have to. You have to stop that. You have to start.
Did you hear, like, what we were talking about, though? Like, we're not willy-nilly raising your sanitary rates because we want to increase revenue. They're requiring us to do $250 million worth.
The question was, is there any way you can help seniors?
I do. It costs us over $1 million a year to do that $500 rebate you get. $1 million a year.
$500, and I just told you where that $500.
Okay, but yeah, go talk to your neighbors and other communities around here and ask them if their government's giving them $500 to help them keep their home. They're gonna tell you no. It's probably the only one in this.
Your $500 means nothing.
Okay, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
I'm gonna tell you, NIPSCO increased.
Sure, I can't help what NIPSCO does. Their CEO makes $10 million a year.
I'll bring that up. On TV, before I came here, the other municipalities are going after their utilities for getting a windfall from the government. Are you gonna go after NIPSCO?
I've been after.
You're gonna tell them that, hey, you just got a big windfall from the government, how about reducing our rates?
It's a good idea. I've sued NIPSCO before. I'm gonna tell you a secret, though, okay? We're gonna do, let's say I file a lawsuit against NIPSCO. I've done it before, okay? They always win, every time. And they will this time, too. Because ultimately, we go down to Indianapolis, and we appear before a board called the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and then we have a high-priced lawyer representing the city of Hammond, makes a passionate argument just like the one you're making, and they take it under advisement, and then they give us an order a couple weeks later that says, thank you for your time. NIPSCO's getting what they want. And it frustrates me too, sir. NIPSCO, the CEO makes seven-figure salaries. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think his job's harder than my job. I don't make a seven-figure salary, and I'm not asking for it. I don't think it's appropriate. It's a monopoly regulated by the state, and their executives are making seven figures. I don't think that's fair. But it's not fair for you to compare what we do to NIPSCO. That's not fair at all. So, and I appreciate your question. We ask every question, and we read every question. Councilman Higgs?
I guess my question would be, in terms of the utilities, if we have windmills placed throughout the city, would that save?
I love windmills. Love them. From what I heard, Councilman Higgs, windmills, the power that you put in to create the windmill never pays itself off. I still like windmills. Funny enough, Kevin and I are driving back from Indianapolis, had this conversation today also. I love windmills, but from what I understand, they don't really generate that much power. But they're nice. I like them. I think it looks nice. It looks green. But that's a great question. I always pictured windmills in Lake Michigan, like in the water, just spinning away, creating electricity. I think it'd be great.
Mayor, I'll just add one thing. I know a little bit about windmills. We looked at maybe doing some of those at the plant off Columbia Avenue we spend about $250,000 a month in energy costs. Just the sanitary district.
Right.
So we looked at those, and the big thing is, all of those windmills you see off of I-65, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those windmills, you add up all the power that they generate, and it can barely run the size of the city of Crown Point.
Okay. I've heard the same thing.
Yeah.
Like the amount of energy it goes into creating it, the windmill never even makes that back. It's like a losing proposition. But it doesn't mean I don't want to see windmills.
Right.
But.
And then one other thing, Mayor, I should add, since we're on the subject, the sewer department, and I just want to make one correct, sewer department's under the sanitary district. They maintain all of our sewers across the city. You see the Vector trucks out there cleaning those sewers to make sure that the sewers have clean flow and quick flow back into the plant. Well, in 2020, his $3 million budget goes away because of the tax caps. So I'm going to have to be coming back to the mayor and the city council to figure out how we make up that money so that we maintain our sewers, so that you and the homeowners make sure that you're having the best quality that actually you should receive now that continues past 2020.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
In high-density areas in Hammond where there are railroad tracks, are there any consideration about changing those configurations so that the trains don't have to sound their horns throughout?
Good question. That's a good question. The quiet zones. Takes a lot of engineering. Dean, you want to grab? Takes a lot of engineering and planning, and the railroads have to sign off on it. It's not a bad idea, though, but it does require some extra engineering, and like they have to make it so that you can't turn around, and it's got to be gated from both sides. Dean?
Second District Councilman asked us to look into that around Soul Avenue where the Renaissance apartments are.
Yeah, right.
So we're doing that. It's a couple $100,000 to.
Just for that intersection?
Just to do an intersection to make it a quiet zone. So but we are looking into those areas.
And I know
and
Whiting's got
locations.
one up by the football stadium, but they put a lot of money into it also. But it's a great idea, sir. But it's not just a simple thing you could do overnight. And then getting the railroad's cooperation, that's a lot of fun too.
We are also looking at grade separation projects if we can, where we separate the road grade from the railroad grade and have a bridge over the railroad if we can. So we're looking at options for that too, Mayor.
Thanks for the question, sir. Don?
Down to our last two, Mayor. Has water contamination spread to Hammond from East Chicago? Are we going to be able to get federal assistance if the water is contaminated?
The water's not contaminated. I'm going to have Ron, why don't you jump in real quick, and then I'm going to make sure Ed jumps in also, okay?
The issue in East Chicago is building on a former lead site, and what they found essentially is the contamination from those surface areas goes to the north and to the northeast. Hammond is southwest. Won't be any issues associated with any airborne contamination or soil contamination going that distance to the city of Hammond. So the short answer is no.
Thank you. Ed, I know we get our water tested multiple times daily. You're not on.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
We test our water constantly, and there's no water contamination in Hammond.
Like when we were talking earlier about Casey, when he got the key to the city, by losing pressure, then we have bad things happen within our system. We have to flush it and
Exactly.
oil.
There are state statutes that require us to notify everybody.
And knock on wood, I don't think that's ever happened since I've been
We've
there.
never had a boil order in my tenure.
There you go. Me neither. So, good question. And that's an appropriate question. A lot of people are talking about lead. Your city's talking about lead. In fact, Ron and I are looking at buying a lead detector that's portable. It's a very expensive portable piece of equipment, but we feel in the light of what's going on with East Chicago, that was a wise investment.
Because we're an industrialized area here, there's a device out there that's called a XRF, X-ray fluorescent device. And if you can picture what a police officer's radar gun looks like, this is sort of like the radar gun for heavy metals being in the soil. Essentially, it sends a X-ray device, X-ray ray down and irradiates the minerals that are in the soil. And that device then gets a reaction back, and you could determine metals going from arsenic all the way down to zirconium. And you get a good screening of what's available there, and we're likely to find things in Hammond just because we are an industrial area. And for those who are old enough, and I am, I remember buying leaded gas. And in the leaded gas was tetraethyl lead. So you have that naturally in the environment just as a byproduct of cars. And it was back in the mid-70s that we switched to unleaded gas. So heavy industrialized area, use of gas that was leaded. We're likely to find some readings, and this will at least help us gauge what's going on in Hammond.
It's interesting what Ron's talking about, because obviously we're being asked a lot of questions about what's going on in East Chicago. Are we worried about it in Hammond? So I wanted Ron. I said, Ron, what does my front yard have? Not because I'm worried, because, and Ron said, Mayor, your front yard's got lead in it. right?
Right.
I said, what? He said, Mayor, for decades, we drove around in leaded vehicles, and this lead would be emitted from our gas tanks and it would go onto the ground. Stuff we never used to test for. Now, of course, what's gone on in East Chicago where they built on a lead plant, now obviously it's a real focus of the EPA, and we have a couple parts of our city the EPA is looking at. Not because they think it's the East Chicago situation, but it does have elevated lead levels. Disconcerting to hear about that. That's why I wanted to test my front yard, to say we all have it. It's just the EPA is being hypersensitive right now in light of what's gone on in East Chicago. Is that fair?
That's absolutely right. I mean, I'm sure I have it at my property. And again, you have probably a mix because although the predominant wind direction is to the north from the south or to the south, southwest to the northeast, we will get times when the wind is coming off the lake and those industrial sources, steel mills, oil refineries, production facilities, will blow something. But the predominant issue is to the north and northwest. Luckily, the sources in Hammond here, for the most part, are located in industrial areas. So, are we going to have some? Yes. Is it a health problem out there? I doubt it. But we'll at least have a tool to gauge it. I think we want to make decisions based upon fact rather than conjecture.
Right. So we'd be unique. Not too many cities have this tool you're talking about, right?
Right.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Ron. We did a Facebook Mayor's Night Out, and it was very successful. We're going to start doing that more often. So the months I don't have, which makes a lot of my department heads happy, because Facebook Mayor's Night Out is just really me and a couple people instead of having the whole group here like we have right now. But I find that it was actually really encouraging when we did that. So in the months we're not doing actual Mayor's Night Out, we're doing Facebook Mayor's Night in City Hall. I'm going to take a Facebook question, but you guys trump Facebook questions because you're here. Okay, but I am going to do it just to make the Facebook audience happy. Mayor, I have more recycling than garbage. It would be great to have weekly pickup. Is that a possibility? This is a great question because I am an avid recycler. I'm like the guy that goes through the garbage can in my house and yells at my kids, okay? I'm like, what are you throwing this in the garbage for? You know how much we spend putting this stuff in the landfill? And my recycling is way more than my garbage. I have 2 cans, luckily enough. Not everybody has that luxury. Johnny, do you get this question a lot? You know, I know recycling is not run by the city anymore. Do we get this question a lot? Do you communicate with Republic? I mean, do they communicate with us a lot?
As they call, we do answer their questions, and a lot of times we get that question a lot.
You know what? Because you guys, I imagine we have a good idea who's recycling well and who doesn't. There's some people that don't do it as well as others.
Some people, they use the recycling can for trash.
Yeah, but like my house, we fill up 2. I got kids like crazy though. I mean, but if you are a proven good recycler, why wouldn't they want to give you another can? They make money and we save money.
Absolutely.
I think it's a really good question that Facebook Nation came up with.
Absolutely, Mayor.
So maybe we could talk to Republic about, and I know Councilman Ham, you still here? Councilman Dave, you're real close to Republic also, right? And Dave also does some work for the city of Hammond besides being our county councilman. Dave, do you think maybe you could reach out to Republic and talk to them about this? I think it's a real good point. Because some houses are really good about recycling, and they only have 1 can, and that's woefully inadequate. So, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate it. Thank you to the Facebook person that asked that. All right, let's get back to the real audience.
Okay,
Not that Facebook audience is not the real audience, but
This is our final question for tonight, Mayor.
right.
How can nonprofit organizations which have just moved to the community become more acclimated system-wise?
Good. Thanks. Africa? Africa is the head of planning and development.
Hello. First of all, welcome to the City of Hammond. We're always excited when non-for-profits, profits, or residents want to be involved in the City of Hammond. I can talk to you after the meeting, but there are several things that you can do to be involved within the City of Hammond and get acclimated within the city. I'm also going to give you the contact information for Awana Miller. She's a Community Development Director, so I know she's always looking for people to assist with helping with things throughout the community. But I also want to use this time for a quick plug into some events that we have forthcoming within the City of Hammond. On Thursday, February 1st, we'll have the annual Black History Program. The title is Celebrating Those in Media and the Arts, and it will be at 10 a.m. February 1st at City Hall in the lobby. We also have the Disabilities Breakfast. that will be held in March, but we are accepting applications at this time with the deadline being the 23rd. So there are some events that are coming up, but I will speak to you after Mayor's Night Out, ma'am.
Thanks, Africa. Phil, I know you wanted to add something about not-for-profits.
Yeah, years ago, I mean, we found through the city that we were receiving a lot of requests for funding from a lot of different not-for-profits. So years ago, the mayor decided to put together an advisory committee. So we do it all basically at one time during the year. Every not-for-profit can submit. We get a lot of the Crime Watch groups that submit. I know there's quite a few people in here. So the person that asked the question, if you want to come see me afterwards, I could talk to you. But that's a good way of getting your not-for-profit into the mayor's office, basically, so that we recognize you now, we know that you're around, and possibly you can get some funding, and it'll help you get your not-for-profit moving.
Thank you, Phil. Ann, I know you have a job fair coming up,
Yes.
right?
The 15th annual job fair is planned for Thursday, March 22nd. It will be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Civic Center. Last year we had 84 companies come, and I know Juan in the office is shooting for 100. So keep in tune for that and give us a call if you're interested.
Thank you, Ann. Anybody else have any announcements up here? Anything coming up next few weeks? This is like, I could tell department heads look, they're like, no questions, Mayor.
219 Day, Mayor.
No, none at all. Nothing going on.
219 Day, Mayor. I've got
Thank
all
you,
the stuff
Donna.
back here on the table.
Thank you, Donna. 219 Day.
Feats of strength. I've been working out.
Feats of strength. We do have a new mascot, Reggie the Region Rat. If you're interested in becoming this mascot, we are taking auditions. So, all right. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Councilman?
February 28th.
Look at that. Beautiful. And I'm going to do a virtual Mayor's Night Out probably the month after that, I think is in March, the first Facebook Live Mayor's Night Out. So, February 28th, where, Donna? Purdue?
I'm looking. Oh, okay. The Student Union at Purdue.
All right, there you
Third
go.
floor library building.
Last Wednesday of the month, February in the 5th District. So, thank you, everybody. Great job in the 4th District. Congratulations to Casey Farrell, Key of the City. Congratulations.